It's on, baby. The boxing match. In this corner, weighing 10,000 pounds, the Republican Party. And in this corner, weighing 8,000 pounds, the Democrats. Yeah, that's what it is, folks. It's a boxing match par excellence. You can't imagine what's happening right now. They're going to punch the crap out of each other. Because if you hear anything about policies, if you hear anything about what they've done right or where they're going to go, it ain't happening. All right, folks? This is what we're going to see over the next couple of weeks until the early November. Because in this corner, Kamala Harris has picked Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, as her running mate, as her VP candidate. And let me tell you, folks, like J.D. Vance, not going down without some kind of noise. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the midweek version of the Rant Network. I'm David Solomon, high on caffeine, with Stuart Brisgell, who's also high on caffeine, because we need to wake up from this mishigas. This is an uncensored, unfiltered, and unedited conversation, ladies and gentlemen. A podcast we do 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, at noon Eastern, when we broadcast our opinions, your opinions, and really thoughts and experiences, ideas from a wide variety of perspectives and frank and honest opinions, of which I stress again, we're not a news outlet, but we do our homework and research, but these are still our opinions. This is all about the news, the politics, pop culture, so much more. It's the absurdity of life. And over the next number of weeks, it will be freaking absurd. We have 90 days of absolute craziness. So, folks, for today, let's sit back. Let's chat about Kamala Harris and Tim Walz. Now, Stuart, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, is in his second term, 60-year-old guy. And let me tell you, she picked the guy as progressive, quote unquote. I hate the word progressive. I think there's anything. No, when I hear the word progressive, I think socialist, regressive, oppressive policies. Tim Walz in the state of Minnesota, home of Ilhan Omar and her crazies. The amazing attitude in that state. He is her running mate. And let me tell you, Stuart, it just lends to the fact that in light of recent events, the Democratic Party that I remember from the 70s and 80s, I can tell you right now today, is starting to resemble more of Castro's Communist Party than the Democratic Party of Jimmy Carter. But Stuart, you're the American. What do you think is going on?
Well, David, we're talking about Tampon Tim. The man known on handing out tampons to 4th grade boys. I'm not just saying it. It's not just make-believe. They are doing everything they can to scrub the internet of Tampon Tim. Amazing. Why is it known that the Democrats have to sanitize their candidates? The Republicans let Donald Trump in his Gregorian glory run around, yell, scream, and act like a buffoon. Because that's who the guy is. Is he presidential? No.
Stuart, we lost your microphone there, buddy. Stuart, we lost your microphone there. So I don't know what's happening here. This is the uncensored and unfiltered issue here, folks. So while Stuart is... No, we don't hear you. So while Stuart is trying to fix that up, let me cut in for just a second, folks. Because Tim Walz...
Well, I see my microphone just loud and clear.
Oh, we got you back. Thank you. Welcome back, Stuart. Go ahead.
So Tampon Tim, we're going back. I don't know where I cut off, but we're talking about Donald Trump not acting very presidential. And we have never been just Trumpers. You know, we've been critical of this, tang guy, just like the next guy. But what we don't see is the filtering of who the presidential candidates are. Let's compare and contrast the hyena versus Tangman and the military vet who's married to a minority versus Tampon Tim. So we're focusing on Tampon Tim. Why are they spending so much time trying to sanitize this vice presidential candidate? Why did they choose a candidate from where the Ku Klux Klan has the voice of the Knights, where we take a, quote, football coach Let me tell you something. If he was a football coach and he ran with Lions, Mustangs, or Packers, he would have been sacked. Because any guy wanting to hand tampons to grade 4 boys needs to be sent to the jail. The jailhouse, where he can use all the tampons he wants to stuff them in his mouth from being punched out. Because it's ridiculous. You know, Elizabeth Dorsey Hassel is a likely person to endorse a Tim Walz. Who is she? She's someone from the KKK. Why? Because you're talking about someone who is just a villain, hates Jews, hates blacks, hates everyone. He's a chameleon. Let me go to Kamala as one of 3 candidates and promise I'll do whatever you want, man. Just put me on the ticket. I'll say whatever you want. I'm lefter than you. You know, he makes Bernie Sanders look almost right, which is crazy. But the reality is this matchup needs to be debated. I want to see all these guys on a stage. I want to hear the hyena and Tampon Tim try and defend his record of snitches are bitches. I want to buy ladders and build a ladder factory to let all these immigrants in. I want these people on the record. Because right now, if you go and search the internet, you're only going to find Tim Walz as I'm a great guy. I'm a gym teacher. I'm a guy from West Point. I served in the National Guard. I was a factory worker. No, Tim Walz is the most radical left person on a ticket that has someone who's the most radical left vice president in history. You know, and speaking of left, do you know why Kamala Harris couldn't choose Shapiro, Philadelphia icon? He ain't such a peach for reality. But you know why? Because also yesterday, everyone is speaking. Cori Bush, the 9 of clubs, has officially been taken out. Now you have Bauman and Bush, 2 members of the illustrious squad, gone. Why are they gone? The left media isn't talking about this. They don't want you to know about this. Why? Because people that live in their ridings are fed up. Why are they fed up? Because it is impossible to live under these draconian people. During COVID, can't go outside and play basketball. Demanding the jab. That's a Walz and Kamala ticket. It's amazing. How do you end up here? It's because you have the left-hand socialist media. Now, Fox News is a right-hand cracker jackbox of a cesspool at times. They have produced some of the most radical right-wing commentators ever heard. However, what they do give is a perspective of both sides. Turn on MSNBC. Watch Whoopi Goldberg wet her pants about an Indian. Yep, she's Indian. It's not black. Kamala Harris. But what is she? You know, they all want to circle the wagons around their team. But let me do this. Take Tampon Tim and the hyena, put him on a stage with Trump and Vance, and let's see what happens. 90 days to the ballot, David.
Well, Stuart, I got to tell you, this is, well, you went on and on and on and on about that. I'm finding it very interesting, your statements there. But let's put some, dots on the I's and crossing the T's here. So Tim Walz, folks, during the Black Lives Matter was the governor during the Black Lives Matter riots with George Floyd. And let me tell you, that state was a mess. He handled that really crappily. He wasn't going to give in. He was actually, he is too socialist. He believes in all this kind of stuff. He's ready to burn a state. And while he says, oh, he didn't handle it perfectly, This is the vice president, folks. Stewart's comment about the tampon Tim, I mean, it's not just giving out tampons. He believes in gender affirmation. He believes that the state has the right to take your child away if your child wants to change genders at under the age of 12. I mean, we can't even have a debate about it. His attitude is, it's done. I'm giving in. I'm giving into these policies because that's what he believes in. The state should control. What Stewart was getting at with COVID, that he demanded state control. Anarchy in the streets so that you can have more state control. The whole notion of gender affirmation, this whole state control. Ladies and gentlemen, what you're not seeing through the weeds is both Kamala Harris and Tim Walz are giving you the impression that on one hand, they're saying, we're going to give you more liberty, more democracy, more freedom. But what they're really doing is taking away all of that. They're taking it away piece by piece, little by little. And then one day you're going to wake up going, whoa, what the hell happened here? Folks, I'm living that here in Quebec. Okay? You can't go to the bathroom here right now without government permission. It's unbelievable. And if that's what you want in the United States, fine. But they're also going down the road, and Tim Walz and Kamala Harris both subscribe to identity politics, right? It's black versus white. It's Latino versus white. It's always, us versus them. Gay versus, straight. It's all identity politics. Tim Walz is a big subscriber to all that. And it's frightening, Stuart, how this is going to be played up. Yesterday I heard it, and you said perspective about Fox, and it's something that, caught my attention. Is, while Fox is clearly pro-Republican, clearly pro-conservative, has the token Democrat at the table, she made an interesting comment. She says there are more Jews, Democrat, not just elections, but as elected officials than the Republicans. And I sat there going, yeah, you're right. That's true. But watch as they're all shifting. Because the Democratic Party, and this is how I started it, the Democratic Party, what it should be standing for, isn't. Okay? It's pretending. It's pretending that it is on your side. What it really is doing is pitting a minority versus a majority. It's creating...
It's putting minority against minority.
Well, okay, yes. Hold on. Stu. Yes, you're right. That it's putting black versus Jew. It's making a decision.
Jew versus... Muslim.
No Jew. Hold on. Muslim versus whatever. We know what they're doing. They're playing this game, this racist politics. They're playing into these socialists. But what I said at the beginning is that the Democratic Party, by it continuing to shift that way, is losing voters. They're going to lose because the American population as a whole, not New York, biased New York with the media, not biased California. Hold on.
I got to stop you about New York. I'm going to interrupt you.
Hold on. I'll get to that. I know where you're going to go. Hold on to that thought, please. What I'm trying to get at is that the United States of America isn't representative on MSNBC, CNN, ABC, CBS, NBC. It's not. Stuart, you yourself see it in Florida. I've seen it in Georgia. I've seen it in other states. Americans are talking, sometimes under their breath, that they can't watch the news because it's not representative of a reality that they believe in. And with Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman thrown out on their ass, not in an election, in a primary within their own party, tells you what the problem is. Now, Stuart, I'm going to go one step further. The Democratic Party, why do I think the Democratic Party is shifting? And this is not going to be my words, Stuart. You're going to love this. CNN's Van Jones. You remember Van Jones, right? We don't really love this guy. But he's made some very interesting remarks recently that he notices that the Jewish community in the United States is marginalized. Ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know Van Jones, an African American, he is definitely a CNN commentator. He is definitely left, but he has called out and screamed out, and we've talked about this in a previous rant, that the Jewish community is being marginalized unfairly, and he's seen it with his own eyes. So now he's questioning the Democratic Party and wondering if the anti-Jewish bigots, and this is his quote, within the Democratic Party sunk Josh Shapiro. Because Tim Walz's stance on Israel is no different than Josh Shapiro. Tim Walz's
I got to stop you because I got to break news. I got breaking news.
Go ahead, Stuart. Please.
The speed in which Kamala had to choose her candidate didn't allow for the proper vetting of a vice president candidate, which normally takes months of preparation from a party. The headlines ripping right now are Tim Walz betrayed his country when he left his unit before his deployment to Iraq. Therefore, he is a technical deserter from the National Guard.
What is that?
Now, what does it have to do with? They're choosing a vice president that literally is a deserter. I'm sorry. I just had to throw that in there. It just literally came across the line.
So they picked. So here's where I'm trying to go to, Stuart. Okay,
all right.
Give me a chance. All right. So Josh Shapiro was the leading candidate, but because he's Jewish, this is the allegation within his own party, Democrats within media questioning why not Josh Shapiro. So they're trying to say, he's too powerful. He would overtake Kamala. Interesting. He would overtake Kamala. So they went and they found somebody else with, as you said, right, with a bad rap. But the reality, Stuart, is that the Democratic Party doesn't want Jews. This is a message. It's a very clear message. Josh Shapiro would have brought Pennsylvania, would have brought in other states, but he can't because he's what? So the excuse is he's too powerful for Kamala Harris, which then leads to the question. So if he's so powerful, why is Kamala the candidate? But let's put that aside for a second.
Well, the whisper from the 3 meetings that Kamala had, David, was Shapiro said, "What control will I have?"
Yeah, but that's but the funny thing is, what did Kamala want? You don't think Kamala wanted control? I think it's interesting how she is, but the party itself is shredded. The party itself is more willing to give its bias to Michigan, one area of Michigan. They're afraid to lose Michigan over one community. And I had a great crash course over the weekend on Michigan politics. And I got to tell you something. The media has portrayed that all of Michigan is pro-Arab. They're not. They're more pro-job. They're more worried about their car industry dying. They're more interested in losing, that Rust Belt is petrified of losing its position in the United States and in the world, and they don't give a shit about Israel and Palestinians and all that kind of crap. Jobs. Hasn't changed, Stuart, in decades. But here we are with this, people are questioning the Democratic Party. And the interesting statistic that came out, that for the first time in God knows how long, the Jewish vote is split almost 50-50 between Democrats and Republicans. And in the state of New York itself, it's actually tipping Republican, which shows you that the Democratic Party is still not paying attention to where it's heading.
David, do you feel like you got your 2 words in?
Well, when you let me, no problem. But let me put it this way. Stuart, let me ask you this question, because I know we're way over the time, but that's okay. People have said it's all right. Stuart, let me ask you this question. Right now, you have the liberal media trying to paint J.D. Vance as this eccentric.
Weirdo.
That he was not allowed to change his mind, okay? Because 10 years ago, he crapped on Trump. He's not allowed to change his mind. But everybody else in the Democratic Party is allowed to change their mind. The Republicans are positioned as racist. And in fact, J.D. Vance was accused of wanting only white children. And I commented about this in a previous rant. And yet the Democrats, I don't know about you, why did they need a white male candidate as a vice president then? Stuart, forgive my ignorance, but the Democrats, I think, are sounding like they're talking from both ends of their mouth.
But that's what Democrats do. Rules for me, not for thee. I've got an eraser for anything I did. They're trying to sanitize the 2005 military record of their nominee or a presumptive nominee, Tim Walz.
Well, you know what? It's worse than that. They're erasing Kamala Harris's record. They're erasing Tim Walz. They're trying to bleach them as if they were their halos on their head. It's frightening what the media is trying to do.
It is. And David, maybe we should go back. I know we've done this several times in 3.5 years, talked about the left bias media. But I think that it's maybe time that we should revisit this and start pushing, what news channel you watch it.
Well,
You know, we have a bunch of Democrats. I'm talking. We have a bunch of Democrats that watch our broadcast, and I say that not like it's a four-letter word, Dems. But the reality is, they're rather silent when it comes to any verification of any fact that their candidates would say. You know, they fact check. Fact checks were created by the Democrats because they thought that they could PR their way out of their insanity. But you know what, David? Here I am in front of you, swearing to you that we're going to spend the next 90 days discussing probably two topics. One, the presumptive attack on Israel, which is allegedly going to happen, and the support the U.S. and the world will give, knowing that most of the Abraham Accords countries have already advised Iran don't fly in the airspace. Two, the election, the scandals, the debates. We have 90 days for the world to either wake up or be turned on its head. David, I think it's time to wrap this well over broadcast.
One thing I'm going to stress over the next 90 days as we get to the election is I'm going to pull out every policy I could possibly find, because if you look on KamalaHarris.com, by the way, there isn't a single policy about the economy. There isn't a single policy going forward. So I'm just curious, folks, if you're a Democrat, what are you voting for? Are you voting for the Democrats because you believe in something that they're doing, or you are so caught up in the anti-Republican mindset that you won't look, you won't dig because you're afraid to see what's under the covers? Stuart, I think that over the next 90 days, we're going to be focusing quite a bit on that.
I'm just going to end with this, because since we keep going on, this is what the Democrats are doing. They're pulling a rabbit out of a hat.
Ladies and gentlemen, with that, I want to thank you very much. We are way over our usual time. Thank you so much for listening to the network, our Rant Network. We're back Monday, Wednesday, Friday, noon Eastern. That's when we broadcast. Please check us out on social media. Check us out on therantnetwork.com. And if you have any comments, feel free to share it with us. And until Friday, have yourself a wonderful week, folks.